Okay, I'm sure you've heard the saying, if you're the smartest person in the room, then you're in the wrong room. What a load of bull crap. Because at some point we've all been in rooms by people who appear to be much more competent, much smarter, and seemingly better than us. Or in other words, it's a me every day. But the reality is, I work with a talented bunch of people in one of the most sought after digital marketing agencies in the world. And oftentimes I walk out of meetings saying, what happened there? Before actually sitting down and going through the minutes of the meeting to just mull over whatever was discussed. My own doubts about exhibiting competence and being up to pace with the rest of the world made me curious about the neuroscience of the brain and what it takes to process and learn information faster. But how can one build a better brain, and what are some of the things that are in our control to do this? As I casually searched the internet, I discovered this book by Peter Hollins named How to Build a Better Brain, and here are my biggest 3 takeaways from the book. Chapter 1. Stimulation is key. The author makes something very clear. There are 2 types of stimulation, the right way and the easy way. The easy way of brain stimulation is of course social media, video games. I don't think we need to go into detail about that. And the hard way is of course, grabbing a book, reading an article and all of those things. Researchers in the University of London compared the brain structure of taxi and bus drivers. And while the taxi drivers had to drive around town, essentially memorizing every route that they take, including every street, every shortcut, the bus drivers had to only memorize the main roads that they travel in, which required relatively less work for the brain. Similarly, another experiment revealed that the brains of musicians had much stronger ability to learn and process information. Amateur musicians had lesser grey matter and non-musicians had none. The commonality in both experiments with the taxi drivers and the musicians was that the brain was essentially stimulated in the right manner, and it produced better neural connection and faster processing and memory power. This is of course easier said than done, with forces constantly surrounding us to lead us to lazier forms of stimulation, which is also important but perhaps a topic for another video. But a line from the book that I will surely keep with myself is this: what you dread the most, even a perspective, will create the most change and growth. And this means that if there's an article that presents itself with an interesting premise, or an Instagram post that is text heavy, too cluttered and is not easy on the eye, or even a perspective from someone you don't like, maybe stop for a moment and go through it. Because even if you didn't find the article or the perspective useful, just by exposure through exertion to things that could be potentially useful, you're essentially allowing your brain to have its workout for the day. And it's this kind of stimulation that is the key to building a better brain. The second principle that the author talks about is enriching our environments. Surroundings play a role in shaping our neuroplasticity and play a huge role in our decision making and shaping our identities. And I felt the effects of this, especially since I've moved out alone to a different city, where I find my house obnoxiously cluttered, and it's in this setting where I find my mind also to be cluttered with thoughts. I can't think anything, I can't get anything done. But just when I make the effort to organize it a little bit, make it a little bit appealing, I find more clarity in my thoughts, no matter how harsh they ultimately turn out to be. What's more is that the author also makes specific points of how you can enrich your environment to acquire a specific goal. Maybe you want to get a little more fitter, and that could be achieved by imagining yourself as this athlete that you want to be and showing up every day to the gym in this attire. Or maybe you want to be more social and improve your social skills, and that's certainly possible through putting yourself in a more socially friendly environment that gives you the freedom to initiate conversations. Some of the portions in this section of the book was like, what? But I think the underlying thought is pretty clear, which is how can you make your surroundings more friendly that allows you to be more proactive and conducive to getting work done. Which brings me to chapter number 3, be methodical, persistent and repetitive. Like any meaningful change, neuroplasticity takes time, patience and conscious effort. The author in the book uses the analogy of how the Grand Canyon was formed. At the bottom is a small rover which slowly carved a chasm in the heart through millions of years, and now is one of the biggest of its kind. That's obviously an oversimplification of how geography works, but I think the point here is pretty clear. We don't necessarily have to portray ourselves as this enabler of all things hustle and bustle, but if we can all just be methodical in doing the small bits and the small chunks of work every single day, something magical starts to happen. Words start to flow, the body starts to feel more able, inspiration starts to descend, and even though you're not the most gifted person in the room, you'll certainly feel the most persistent. And so this video is simply an unoriginal reminder that building our brain is very much in our control, and it can be done through effective stimulation, surrounding our environments with the right things, and being methodical and persistent in our daily approach. Next Sunday.